So if you're talking of interest rate of 12, 14%, it will actually double the monthly amortization that the buyer will have to pay for his loan compared to an interest rate of 7, 6%. Because what you pay on your monthly amortization comprises, interest rate would comprise about 90% of the whole amount.
So in hindsight, you're telling us right now that the move to lower the interest rate was good for the
It was good
for the country,
for the whole economy,
good for the people also.
for everybody.
So you've been here in Central Luzon probably for the past 3 or 4 years, right?
We started our first project here in Pampanga about 3 years ago. We have our projects, high-rise condominium in Metro Manila. But until about 3 years ago, we decided to shift our focus, concentrate more on horizontal low-cost development.
Were you looking at Clark or the workers in Clark?
Yes, and not only workers, but tourists also, foreign investors, because I see a big potential with Clark.
So far, how many units have you built in the area?
Within the last 2 years, we have actually constructed about close to 11,000 houses. It's just in Pampanga.
So far, how many have you employed? Or your contractors, subcontractors?
You know, in one project alone, at any one time, we would be employing 5,000 to 6,000 direct labor.
And there's talk in town that you have created a new breed of millionaires. Your brokers, your agents.
Agents, of course, after they have bought one unit from us, we actually teach them, why don't you refer one to your friends or your relatives, and we'll give you a referral fee. It's not actually broker's fee. Then they started doing this on a full-time basis, and they're making good.
But people are also saying that you're very unorthodox in your marketing strategy.
There's one thing that we're never traditional. No amount of feasibility study will ever beat actual homegrown interview with your prospective buyers. Just ask people you deal with every day, so how much are you renting?
Yes.
If you're staying in an apartment, how much rent do you pay?
You always do that with waiters.
That's it. Exactly. So with that, just make your own computation.
So that's targeting their affordability.
Exactly. If I can come up with a, let's say, a development, a complete township development, and I can sell this house to that prospective buyer, and he would end up paying the monthly amortization about the same price as what he's paying now for his rental, it's a no-brainer. You always look at the actual need. I must caution also some of our viewers that, okay, like what happened 10 years ago, or maybe 15 years ago, during the Asian crisis, even before, when there was actually a bubble. People were rushing in to buy pre-selling of condominiums. There were condominium projects being launched left and right almost every week. How many multimillionaires do we have here in the Philippines? Where are these buyers coming from? Only to find out, in that project, you have the same faces buying, and on the next project, these are the same faces, same people who are making reservations. Obviously, this is a speculative bubble. What happened before may or may not happen again. Luckily, our banks right now are very conservative. So, if the banks are conservative, I don't think there would be an oversupply. If there would be a natural dead. If nobody buys, people will stop developing, right?
That's what triggered the crisis in the US, right?
Banks are too lenient. They were too aggressive. What happened in the States today happened to us 12 years ago.
Okay, let's stop for a while. We still have so many things to talk about, but we have to have a break. Okay, we'll be right back. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. This is Sonny Lopez and I'm with Mr. Delphin Lee. Before the break, we were discussing about there was a time in the U.S. That the banks were so lenient.
They were too aggressive. that you can actually buy a house in the States about 3 years ago without even shelling out a single dollar. They were actually pushing you to borrow. That created artificial demand. So people who doesn't really need to buy a house, they'll buy a second home, a third home. They borrow against the equity of their existing house because the value went up. So they borrow against it, bought a second house, a third house with very lenient financing. But that's only for the first 2 years.
Yes.
After that, then the real interest rate it's an adjustable rate. So this fueled an artificial demand. When I was in the States about 3 or 4 years ago, I saw that coming. And I was actually telling some friends, hey, how much do you value your house today? They would say, oh, it was appraised this much, this much. I said, guy, sell it. Sell it.
Sell it.
What do I do? Sell it and rent a place for 2 years and come back after 2 years and buy this house. This same house you can buy at 50% less.
But are they on the road to recovery now at this point in time?
If we base it on what happened to Asia and to our country, it might take minimum 7 years.
7 years.
Because after the banks are burned, they will be very cautious, tiptoe their way back. Luckily, our banks have learned their lesson, so now, if you ask me if there is an oversupply, there might be, but there would be natural adjustment because the banks are very conservative.
And the things that you have developed here, you go to the bank, you go to Pag-ibig, you have in-house efforts.
We do. When we develop a project, we have to come up with all sorts of financing
Okay.
for our prospective buyer. There are maybe 1 or 2% who would buy in cash.
You think that's another problem? There's so many papers that you have to fill out every time you want to have a house?
That's part of the job. Actually, that's part of the requirement because you're transferring titles.
Yes.
Right? So we provide financing also through in-house financing for those people who doesn't want to go to bank. A lot of our buyers are afraid to deal with banks. They feel that if they deal with us, it's more a personalized,
Yes.
right, relationship. Now, there are also buyers, a lot of them now are applying loans through Pag-ibig,
Yes.
which we have been deputized to approve their loan on the assumption that we guarantee their payment for the first 2 years. So this is what we call the buyback guarantee.
The buyback option.
If they default on the first 2 years, we buy back the account. We pay off their account with Pag-ibig. Then we cancel the contract to sell, and we resell the unit. We know our market. Those people who buy our houses, these are not people who are buying just for the heck of it.
Yes.
These are not people who are buying for investment. These are people who buy their primary home. This is where they're going to have their roots. When they own their house, 90% of their insecurity is sold.
Yes.
Second, then the education of the children. Now, if we can now provide free education by coming hand in hand with DepEd, that makes it more affordable.
We've been talking about that for over 3 years. Some people are still saying, is this true? This is so good to be true. Free education from elementary up to high school.
What we do when we put up a project, we put up all the amenities in place before we even start selling.
Is it in your objective that all your buyers will be proud about their communities, the Severa communities?
When we talk of this Severa,
Yes.
we're targeting an family income bracket of between 30 to 50,000. Within that income bracket, I would say safe for a family to allocate 20% for housing. So if you have a 30,000 income, you allocate 6,000. Now, what packages are we producing right now? We're coming up with packages of 750,000.
Yes.
House and lot, townhouse, which they can borrow through Pag-ibig. They pay a monthly amortization of 5,006. The support we give them is that we put in a school.
Yes.
Instead of us running it as a private school and charging them tuition fee, we actually donate this to DepEd
Yes.
through their Adapt a School program. Now, with that, we also bring in ABS Foundation.
That ensures the quality of the education.
Yes, because this family income of 30 to 50,000, normally they would send their children to private school. And how much would it cost to send a child to a private school? Easily 30,000, not counting yet the daily transportation fee. So, if we can save this amount for our homeowners by providing them free education and guaranteeing that these educational standards